the first time Maya Torres saw the little girl. A man's hand was already closing around the child's tiny arm. The restaurant hummed with crystal and cutlery and low, important voices, but at that table everything went silent. The girl's eyes went wide, glossy like dark glass about to shatter. The floor manager's fingers tightened. "You can't sit here without an adult," he hissed. Maya didn't think. Her tray tilted, glasses chimed together, and she stepped between them, her palm slicing the air like a line of fire. "Let go of her," she said, voice steady even though her heart pounded. She had no idea her next breath would change her life, or that somewhere across the glittering dining room the girl's father was watching, and that he was the one man in Las Vegas no one dared to cross. Before we dive deeper into this story, tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? And if you enjoy emotional love stories like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Now, let's go back to how this all began, just a few hours earlier. Lunch at the Aurora Sky Lounge always hit like a sandstorm at noon. 27 floors above the Las Vegas Strip, the restaurant floated in glass and chrome, with floor-to-ceiling windows that turned the city into a living painting. Sunlight poured in, bouncing off wine glasses and polished marble like tiny flares of fire. Maya moved through it all with a tray on one hand and a coffee pot in the other, muscles aching, ponytail threatening to escape its tie. Her sneakers squeaked on the tile as she dodged a busboy and slid past a couple arguing in whispers about a prenup. 3 shrimp tacos, extra salsa, she murmured, dropping plates at table 7. Medium rare ribeye, no butter, gluten-free fries. She smiled, the automatic, careful kind that never reached her tired brown eyes. The man in the suit barely looked up from his phone. "Water," he said. "No ice on it," she replied, already moving. Being invisible was part of the job. Some nights it hurt. Today, it was a relief. She didn't have the energy to be seen. Not with rent due on Friday, her little brother texting about another broken cleat, and her nursing school login sitting unused on her cracked phone screen, reminding her how close she'd come to a different life before the money ran out. A timer shrieked from the open kitchen, followed by a burst of flame as a pan hit the stove too hard. Heat rolled across the pass, carrying the smell of garlic, butter, and something dangerously close to burning. The head chef barked orders, his tattoos slipping in and out of view beneath his white sleeves like snakes in and out of sunlight. "Maya!" Rosa, the hostess, waved from the front podium. "We just sat 12, Vips. Marcus wants you on them." Of course he did. Marcus Cole, the new floor manager, loved 2 things, power and appearances. Maya was presentable, as he liked to say. Translation, she smiled on command and never talked back. At least, that's what he thought. "Got it," Maya called, grabbing fresh menus. She wove through the maze of tables, shoulders brushing tailored jackets and sequin dresses. Outside the glass, the strip shimmered in the noon heat, all neon and promise and lies. A weather alert scrolled across a muted TV at the bar. A rare desert storm was rolling in by evening, dark clouds already gathering on the far horizon like a warning. She paused at table 12, pasted on her careful smile, and greeted the 4 men in perfectly pressed shirts, watches flashing like tiny suns. "Welcome to Aurora Sky. My name is Maya. Can I start you with still or sparkling water?" They barely acknowledged her, already talking about a deal worth more than she'd make in 10 years of double shifts. She took their orders, answered their sharp questions about wine, pretended her hands weren't aching from carrying too many plates in the last 4 hours. By the time she dropped their appetizers, her back was a thin, relentless line of pain. She checked her phone behind the service station, one text from her brother Eli. "You working late again? Coach says I might start Friday. Can you come?" Her chest tightened. She typed with one thumb, "I'm trying, kiddo. Double shift today. I'll figure it out." She didn't hit send. What was the point of promising what she might not keep? Instead, she slid the phone away, grabbed a stack of warm plates, and forced herself back into motion. That was when she saw the girl. Table 15, alone, too small for the high-backed velvet chair that seemed to swallow her up. Dark hair parted neatly, navy dress pressed without a wrinkle, shiny black shoes swinging inches above the floor. No tablet, no phone, no coloring book, just folded hands and eyes fixed on the empty chair across from her, like she could will someone into appearing. Maya's step faltered. Kids alone in restaurants always twisted something sharp inside her. She knew too well what it felt like to wait for a grown-up who might not come. She glanced toward the front, no frantic parent at the host stand, no one scanning the room for a lost daughter. Just Marcus, gliding through the dining room with his tablet and pinched smile, checking place settings like a general inspecting soldiers. Maya set down her plates, heart ticking faster. Maybe the girl's mom was in the bathroom. Maybe her dad was parking the car. Maybe. Marcus's gaze snagged on table 15. His jaw tightened. The sharp click of his dress shoes on marble cut through the low music as he changed direction, heading straight for the little girl with the deliberate, cold focus Maya had come to dread. Something in Maya's chest went cold, like the first drop of rain before a storm. Marcus's gaze locked on table 15, and his whole face sharpened. He tucked his tablet under one arm and cut across the dining room, each click of his polished shoes on marble like a metronome counting down to something bad. Maya felt it in her bones. She set her tray down at the service station without looking, silverware chiming softly as she moved. "Please," she muttered under her breath, wiping suddenly damp hands on her apron. "Please let her mom show up right now." No one appeared. The little girl just sat there, hands folded tight, shoulders pulled in as if she wished she could disappear into the velvet. Marcus stopped beside her table. "This section is reserved," he said, voice smooth but cold. "You can't be here without an adult. Who brought you up?" His shadow swallowed the girl's plate. She tilted her head up, eyes huge. "My dad," she whispered. Her voice was soft, with the faintest trace of an East Coast accent. He said he'd be right back." "Well, he's not here," Marcus snapped. "Patient's already gone. And we don't babysit. Up. Let's go." He reached for her arm. The girl flinched, chair scraping the floor. Something in Maya snapped with it. The kitchen noise, the low music, the clatter of glasses all fell away, like someone turned down the volume on the world. All she heard was the girl's sharp breath. Maya was moving before she knew she'd decided, her sneakers gripping slick tile, weaving between tables until she was there, sliding her body between Marcus and the child. Her heart hammered so hard it made her fingers tremble, but her voice came out clear. "Don't touch her." Marcus's hand froze an inch from the girl's sleeve. His head swung toward Maya, disbelief flashing across his perfect manager smile. "Excuse me?" "She's a kid," Maya said, heat rising under her skin. "She's not bothering anyone. Her dad's coming back." The girl's eyes latched onto Maya's face like it was the only solid thing in the room. "He will," she whispered, as if she had to reassure herself. "He always comes back." Marcus let out a short, ugly laugh. "This is a fine dining sky lounge, not a daycare. We have a standard to keep. She can wait in the lobby." "Alone?" Maya shot back. "She's what, 9? 10? You're really going to shove a little girl out to an elevator bank by herself?" A couple at the next table went quiet. A fork clinked against porcelain somewhere behind her. Conversations began to slow, threads of attention tugging toward the unfolding scene. Marcus's jaw flexed. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she and the girl could hear. "I don't recall asking for your opinion, Taurus. You serve and smile. That's it. Now move." He tried to sidestep her. Maya shifted with him, blocking his reach. Her pulse roared in her ears, but she kept her hands loose at her sides, fingers buzzing with the urge to shove him back. "If you have a problem," she said, "you can take it up with her father when he gets here." Meanwhile, she stays in her seat. For a moment, real anger cracked through Marcus's professional mask. "You want to get fired, is that it?" he hissed. "Because I will walk you out, right now." The girl's breath hitched. She looked from Marcus to Maya, lower lip trembling, then whispered, "Please don't get in trouble for me." That did it. The memory hit Maya like a flash of lightning herself at 8 years old, sitting in a plastic chair outside a hospital room, listening to nurses argue about whether she could stay, no adult to claim her. The taste of metal in her mouth. The certainty that she did not matter. Not again, she thought. Not to this kid. "I'm not the one causing trouble," Maya said, louder now. "You are, by harassing a child who paid for her seat and is sitting quietly, in dress shoes that probably cost more than my rent." A few diners snorted softly. Someone at the bar muttered, "She's got a point." Marcus's cheeks flushed dark red. "Last chance, Torres. Move, or you'll regret it." "Or what?" The new voice slipped into the air like a knife through silk, quiet, controlled, dangerous. The room froze. It wasn't the usual lull of conversation. It was a sudden, absolute stillness that made the hairs on Maya's arms rise. She turned. A man stood a few feet away, framed by the floor-to-ceiling windows and the blazing Nevada sun. Tall, broad-shouldered, his suit charcoal and perfectly cut, dark hair pushed back from a face that was all sharp lines and old shadows. Two men in darker suits hovered a step behind him, like bodyguards pretending to be regular customers and failing completely. His eyes, a deep, impossible gray, swept over the scene the girl, Maya, Marcus, with a slow, lethal calm. Diners who recognized him looked away fast, suddenly busy with napkins and menus. Someone at the bar whispered, "Jesus, that's him." The little girl made a tiny sound, half sob, half relief. "Papa." The man's gaze softened, just for her. Then it shifted to Marcus again, and the air seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Take your hand off my daughter's table," he said. "Right now." Marcus swallowed. His voice, when it came, was thin. "Mr. Valenti, I didn't realize she was a child." The man cut in quietly. "Or mine?" Murmurs rippled through the room. "Valenti." Maya knew that name. Everyone in Vegas did. Luca Valenti, casino investor, real estate mogul, rumored head of a family you did not cross if you wanted to keep your kneecaps and your business. A man people called, in private, the gentleman Mafia boss of the Strip. Maya's mouth went dry. She had just told off a manager in front of a man like that. In front of his daughter. And whatever happened next, there was no taking it back now. Luca Valenti didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Power clung to him like the faint scent of his cologne, subtle but inescapable. He stepped to the edge of the table, one hand resting lightly on the back of the girl's chair, claiming the space without a single wasted movement. "She's with me," he said. 3 simple words, soft as velvet, sharp as glass. The girl sagged back into her seat, shoulders loosening for the first time. Her hand crept out, fingers brushing the cuff of his suit jacket, needing the physical proof he was real. He didn't look at her yet. His eyes were still on Marcus. "Of course, sir," Marcus stammered, the practiced authority in his voice evaporating. "I apologize for the misunderstanding. If I'd known she was you'd have treated her like a person?" Luca finished quietly. "Is that how this works here? Humanity only for children with the right last name?" A low, uncomfortable rustle passed through the dining room. Marcus's throat bobbed. "No, sir. That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Luca asked. His tone never changed, but something in the question made Maya's pulse skip. It was the tone of a man who was used to answers, real ones, fast. Marcus's gaze darted to Maya, blaming her with his eyes. "One of my servers," he said quickly. "She was interfering, creating a scene. I was simply trying to follow policy." "Policy?" Luca repeated, as if tasting the word and finding it sour. Slowly, he turned his head and really looked at Maya for the first time. The impact of his attention was physical. Up close, his features were unfairly precise, a straight nose, strong jaw, the faintest shadow of stubble along his cheeks. But it was his eyes that held her. Gray, clear, assessing, like storm clouds over polished steel. He took her in, from the scuffed sneakers, to the worn black pants, to the white shirt with a faint coffee stain near the hem she'd missed that morning. Her ponytail was frizzing loose, a few dark strands clinging to her damp neck. She felt that look like a scanner passing over her soul. "You stepped between my daughter and your manager," he said. It wasn't a question, but she found herself answering anyway. "She was scared," Maya said. Her voice sounded smaller now, but steady. "She wasn't doing anything wrong. She shouldn't be thrown out for waiting." Something flickered behind his eyes. Not amusement, not anger. Something older, wearier. "What's your name?" "Maya," she said, resisting the urge to straighten her apron. "Maya Torres." "Maya," he repeated, like he was slotting the name into some private ledger in his mind. Before he could say more, the girl suddenly scraped back her chair. She slipped out from beneath his hand and moved to Maya's side, small fingers curling into the edge of Maya's apron like it was an anchor. The entire restaurant seemed to inhale at once. A Mafia roomer in an expensive suit, and his daughter chose to hide behind the waitress. Luca's jaw tightened. Just barely. For the first time, his composure cracked at the edges. "Sophia," he said softly. "Come here, Piccola." The girl Sophia shook her head, pressing closer to Maya's hip. Her voice was almost inaudible. She helped me, Papa." Maya's throat went tight. She laid a careful hand on the back of Sophia's shoulder, feeling the fine tremor in the girl's bones. "It's okay," Maya murmured, keeping her tone gentle, neutral, like she'd learned in the pediatric wing during her one semester of clinicals. "Your dad's here now. You're safe." Sophia looked up at her, eyes glimmering, then slowly, reluctantly, shuffled back to her father. But she didn't stop looking at Maya, not for a second. Luca watched that. He didn't miss much, she realized. Probably didn't miss anything. After a moment, he glanced at Marcus again. "You're going to apologize to my daughter," he said. "Properly." "Sir, Luca didn't move, but the air around him did, tightening, darkening, like the first roll of distant thunder. "Now," Marcus turned to Sophia, his smile stretched thin. "Miss Valenti, I'm so sorry if I upset you. That was never my intention." He sounded like he was reading from a script he hated. Sophia dipped her chin, not buying it, but accepting. Luca's gaze slid back to Maya. "And to her," he added. Marcus blinked. "Sir?" "The waitress you tried to overrule," Luca said. "The one who remembered my daughter is not decor." Every face in the room was on them now. Maya's cheeks burned. "That's not necessary," she said quickly. "It is," Luca replied. His voice left no room for argument. Marcus turned, fury sparking behind his eyes as he faced her. "I apologize," he ground out, "for my tone." The words fell like rocks, heavy and hollow. "And your judgment?" Luca asked mildly. A muscle jumped in Marcus's jaw. "And my judgment," he forced out. "It was poor." "Accepted," Maya said, "because someone had to end this." Luca nodded once, then pulled out Sophia's chair. One of his men appeared with menus, like they'd rehearsed it. As Maya stepped back, she heard Sophia whisper to her father, too soft to fully catch. "She was shaking, Papa." But she still stood there. Luca's answer, she heard clearly. "That's what courage looks like, Tesoro. It's never about not being afraid." Maya walked away, heart thundering, feeling his gaze follow her all the way to the kitchen doors. She told herself it was her imagination, that once he sat, he'd forget her like every other guest did. But deep down, under the hum of the restaurant and the clang of dishes, she knew something had shifted. She just didn't know that by midnight, that shift would cost her everything, and that the man with the storm-gray eyes would not forget her at all. The rest of the shift blurred, but the crackle in the air never really left. Every time Maya passed table 17, she could feel his presence like static against her skin. Luca sat with Sophia tucked close to his side, the girl's hand resting on the white linen near his, as if she needed constant confirmation that he was real. He spoke quietly to her between courses, a low murmur that didn't match his reputation at all. When their dessert plates were cleared, Maya stayed away, sending another server to drop the check. She couldn't bear another hit of those gray eyes on her, not when her knees still felt unsteady. By the time the sun slid lower, and the glass walls began to glow with reflected neon from the strip below, the lunch rush had thinned. Maya's feet throbbed with every step. She was in the break room, counting out a sad pile of singles and crumpled fives, when the night supervisor leaned in the doorway. "Taurus," he said. His expression was already apologetic. "Marcus wants you in the office." Her stomach dipped. "Now?" "Yeah, bring your badge." Those 3 words told her everything. The narrow hallway to the manager's office felt colder than the rest of the restaurant, the humming AC turning the framed food safety posters into something clinical, sharp. Through the glass panel in the door, she saw Marcus behind the desk, and a woman in a slate-gray blazer beside him, tablet in front of her, lips pressed thin. Corporate, Maya realized. Her palms went damp. She stepped inside. The door shut with a soft, final click. "Have a seat, Miss Torres," the woman said. Her voice was smooth and practiced. "I'm Dana Price, Regional Operations." Maya stayed standing. "I'm fine here." Marcus gave a tiny, mean smile. "Suit yourself." Dana tapped her tablet. "We're here to address an incident that occurred today during peak service. A conflict you initiated with your floor manager in front of multiple guests." "If this is about the little girl," Maya said, pulse kicking up. "I stepped in because he was trying to throw her out while she was alone and scared." Marcus's nostrils flared. "I was enforcing policy." "Policy doesn't require grabbing a 10-year-old, Maya shot back. Dana held up a hand. "Regardless of the details, You openly challenged a manager in front of VIP clientele, raised your voice, and contributed to a disruption on the floor. I stopped a man from humiliating a child whose father wasn't there yet, Maya said. And her father did show up. Maybe you saw him. Luca Valenti? For the first time, Marcus looked uneasy. Dana's expression didn't change. Mr. Valenti's patronage is irrelevant to your employment status. Our concern is your behavior. She swiped on the screen. Given your previous warnings for, quote, excessive emotional engagement with guests, corporate has decided to terminate your employment effective immediately for insubordination. The word hit like a physical blow. You're firing me, Maya said slowly, because I didn't let my boss man handle a kid? Dana slid a digital form toward her. Your final paycheck will be mailed. Sign at the bottom to acknowledge receipt of this decision. Maya stared at the glowing lines. Her rent, Eli's game, the overdue power bill. All of it flashed through her mind like cards dealt too fast to grab. She picked up the stylus. Her hand shook, but the signature came out strong. M. Torres. She set it down. You're making a mistake, she said. No, Marcus replied, satisfaction leaking through his smile. You did. 20 minutes later, Maya stepped out through the employee entrance with a cheap cardboard box in her arms, spare sneakers, a faded hoodie, a chipped mug that said, World's Okayest Nurse. The desert storm had finally broken. Rain hammered the sidewalk, hot and heavy, turning the neon into smeared streaks of color across the wet glass. Thunder rolled somewhere over the strip. She didn't have an umbrella. Of course she didn't. The first sheet of rain soaked her in seconds. She sucked in a sharp breath at the shock of it, then let it come, tilting her face up. The water washed away the day's sweat, the lingering smell of fryer oil, the metallic tang of adrenaline. It didn't touch the ache behind her ribs. Stupid, she muttered, swiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. So stupid, Torres. But she knew, even as she said it, that she'd do it again. If she had to choose between a child and a paycheck, she'd made the only choice she could live with. Across the street, a black SUV idled at the curb, wipers sliding back and forth like a heartbeat. Behind the tinted glass, Luca sat in the back seat, jacket open, tie loosened. Sophia was pressed to the window, palm flat against the glass, watching the doorway. There, she whispered. Papa, look. Luca followed her gaze. He saw Maya step into the rain with that cardboard box, saw her shoulders square even as water plastered her shirt to her skin, saw the way she held her chin up like she refused to bow to the storm. Sophia's fingers spread against the glass. She's crying, she said softly. She looks like she's pretending not to. Luca studied Maya's face, the tightly controlled anger there, the grief she wouldn't let tumble out. Something in his chest tightened in an old, unwelcome way. She is, he said. Is it because of me? Sophia's voice was small, panicked. Because she helped me? No, Luca said at once, voice turning gentle. No, Tesoro. It's because some men don't know how to value the right people. The driver cleared his throat. Boss? Luca watched as Maya hugged the box closer and started walking down the sidewalk, rain streaking off her like she was made of glass. Follow her, he said quietly, at a distance, and call Enzo. I want everything on Maya Torres on my desk by morning. The next day, at 7:02 a.m., Maya was woken by a hard, polite knock that rattled her thin apartment door. She rolled off her lumpy mattress on the floor, heart pounding, shoved her hair into a messy knot, and peered through the peephole. A man in a black suit and cap stood there, rain-spotted from the leftover drizzle, holding a cream-colored envelope embossed with a dark V. Debt collector? She thought wildly. Eviction notice? Court. Miss Torres? His voice carried even through the door. My name is Thomas. I work for Mr. Valenti. He asked me to deliver this to you personally and wait for your answer. Her mouth went dry. Mr. Valenti. She undid the chain, opened the door a cautious few inches. The hallway's fluorescent light buzzed overhead, making the cream envelope glow in his gloved hands. What answer? She asked. The letter will explain, Thomas said. Take your time. I'll be in the car. He nodded toward the window, where a dark sedan waited at the curb, its polished surface reflecting the gray morning sky like a sheet of glass. Maya took the envelope. The paper was heavy, expensive, textured, under her calloused fingers. Her name was written across the front in dark ink. She closed the door, set her back against it, and slid down until she was sitting on the scuffed hardwood. Then she broke the wax seal with a soft crack and unfolded the letter that would pull her out of her world and straight into his. Maya unfolded the thick paper and read slowly, lips moving around every word, as if saying them softly would make them less unreal. Miss Torres, I understand you are no longer employed at the Aurora Sky Lounge. Given that your dismissal appears directly connected to an incident involving my daughter, I consider myself responsible for part of that outcome. I do not like unpaid debts. I would like to offer you a position within Valenti Holdings as an on-site medical liaison for my hotel and restaurant division, with a particular focus on guest and staff safety. Your transcript from UNLV nursing, your clinical experience, and your actions yesterday suggest you are overqualified for carrying plates. Starting salary: $90,000 a year, full benefits. If you are interested, Thomas will bring you to my office this morning for a formal conversation. If you are not, simply tell him no, and we will not trouble you again. Either way, thank you for protecting my daughter when I did not. Respectfully, Luca Valenti. Maya read it twice, then a third time. The zeros didn't change. 90,000. Her head spun. Her eyes snagged on the line about her nursing transcript. How the hell does he know that? She whispered. Her phone buzzed on the floor beside her. Rosa's name flashed. She answered on the second ring. Girl, are you alive? Rosa demanded. I heard Marcus canned you. I'm about to go flip a table. I'm fine, Maya said, voice hoarse. Kind of. I saw him last night. Rosa rushed on. Your guy, the one with the eyes, he asked about you. He is not my guy, Maya snapped automatically, heat pricking her cheeks even alone. He's Luca Valenti. Rosa went quiet. The silence hummed like a power line. Maya, she said finally, voice low. That's not just a last name. That's the last name. You know who he is, right? I know what people say, Maya replied. That he owns half the strip, that he doesn't lose, that if he smiles at you, you say thank you and walk away fast. She looked at the envelope again, at the clean strokes of his signature. He sent me a job offer. Of course he did, Rosa muttered. Men like that don't forget things. Favors, debts, people who step between them and their kids. It's not just any job, Maya said. 90 grand, medical liaison. He knows I went to nursing school, Rosa. He knows everything. Then this is either the best thing that's ever happened to you, Rosa said slowly, or the beginning of a very pretty, very dangerous cage. Maya hung up a few minutes later without deciding which it was. She looked around her tiny studio, the sagging bookshelf, the one mismatched chair, the patch of sunlight on peeling linoleum. The air conditioner rattled in the window like it was choking. Eli's text from last night still waited, unanswered. Coach says I might start. Can you come? 90,000 meant rent paid on time. It meant Eli's cleats replaced before they split in half. It meant not choosing between groceries and textbooks if she ever dared to finish her degree. It also meant stepping into the orbit of a man whose name made nightclub owners lower their music and pretend not to stare. She stood, wiped her palms on her sleep shirt, and opened the door. Thomas waited in the hallway, hands clasped in front of him. He didn't look like a thug. He looked like a chauffeur from an old movie, complete with pressed suit and steady eyes. So? He asked. Do I drive away? Or do I take you to Mr. Valenti? Her voice surprised her with how calm it sounded. Take me. The sedan's interior smelled like leather and faint citrus. The city slid past in a wash of gray clouds and wet glass, last night's rain still beating on every surface. As they pulled onto the strip, neon signs flickered weakly in the morning light, like they hadn't finished recovering from the night before. You work for him long? Maya asked. Thomas met her eyes in the rearview mirror, long enough to know he doesn't make offers twice. Is that supposed to make me feel better or worse? Depends what you want, Miss Torres. They turned off the main drag, heading toward a sleek tower of dark glass that rose like a mirror against the cloud-heavy sky. Valenti Holdings. The sign at the base read in discreet silver letters. Inside, cool marble and soft lighting swallowed the noise of the street. Security watched quietly from behind smoked glass. Every surface gleamed. Maya's scuffed sneakers squeaked on the floor, the only imperfect sound. An assistant with sharp eyeliner and a softer smile led her to a private elevator. He's expecting you, she said. The doors slid shut, and the car rose, her stomach dipping as floors ticked by in swift, silent succession. At the top, the elevator opened into an office that looked out over the whole city. Wall-to-wall windows turned Las Vegas into a toy set, tiny cars glinting, casinos like bright, gaudy jewelry scattered in the dust. In front of that impossible view stood Luca, jacket off, white shirt open at the collar. Morning light carved planes into his face, made his gray eyes seem almost silver. A fireplace, unlit now, waited in one corner, black stone and steel, a contained promise of fire. He turned as she stepped in. For a beat, they just looked at each other. The waitress with the stubborn chin. The man whose name people whispered. He nodded once. Maya Torres, he said. Come in. If you're enjoying this love story so far, take a second to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you never miss the next chapter of these emotional cinematic romances. Now, back to the story. She walked forward, every instinct screaming that getting closer to him was a bad idea, a necessary idea, maybe both at once. You had me investigated, she said, before he could speak. Grades, clinical rotations, landlord, that was fast. One corner of his mouth lifted. In my world, information moves quickly. Sit, please. I'd rather stand. Then stand, he said easily. I don't force people to sit, Miss Torres. I prefer they do things because they choose to. Except managers in expensive restaurants, she shot back. His gaze sharpened, approving and dangerous all at once. Marcus made a mistake, he said. You didn't. I got fired. You protected a frightened child, he corrected quietly. Losing your job for that is not failure. It's an indictment of where you were working. He gestured toward the city. I'm offering something else. A medical liaison, she said. Why me? You could hire any nurse in Nevada. But I don't know them, Luca said simply. I know you. I watched you step between my daughter and a man twice your size, shaking, but refusing to move. I know Sophia hasn't stopped talking about you. And I know you studied how to save lives and ended up carrying plates because this city eats people who don't have money or a famous name. The words landed like pebbles in a still pool, sending ripples through all the careful lies she'd told herself. What exactly would this job be? She asked. Simple, he said. On paper, you oversee safety protocols in my properties. In reality, he hesitated, then met her eyes head on. In reality, you make sure what happened to my daughter yesterday never happens again. To her, to my staff, to anyone inside my walls. You want me to babysit your empire. I want you to be the one person in my world whose loyalty is not bought with fear or money, he said. Yours was earned by something else entirely. You don't even know if you can trust me. Don't I? His smile didn't reach his eyes. You stood up for a stranger's child and lost your job. You had every reason to come here furious, asking for revenge, for compensation. You didn't. You came asking questions. That's trust I can measure. She folded her arms. What about what I know about you? Which version? He asked mildly. The newspapers? Or the whispered one? She held his gaze. The one where you're the man everyone owes, and nobody crosses. The one where money gets cleaned somewhere between the casino floor and the bank. For a moment, the air between them tightened. Then, to her surprise, he nodded. Some of that is true, he said. Some of it isn't. All of it is why I need someone exactly like you to tell me when the line is too close. You're asking me to work for a devil and then tell him when he's burning too hot, she said. Maya, he said softly, and her name in his mouth did strange, unsettling things to her heartbeat. I'm asking you to take a job you're built for, to help me keep my people and my daughter safe, and to get paid well enough that your brother never has to text you about broken cleats again. Her eyes flew to his. You looked into Eli. Of course, he said. You protect people. Someone should protect you. For the first time since she walked in, she looked away, out at the sprawling desert and glitter below. The sun was breaking through the last of the storm clouds, sending shafts of light down onto the strip like spotlights on a flawed, glittering stage. And if I say no? She asked quietly. Then Thomas drives you home, Luca said. You find another job that doesn't deserve you. And if I ever see you in one of my restaurants again, I pick up the tab and pretend this conversation never happened. Just like that. Just like that. She turned back to him. The fireless hearth behind him, the wall of glass, the faint scar near his jaw that made him look more human than myth. "You scare me," she admitted. "Good," he replied. "You should be a little scared. That keeps you honest. You really want that? From you?" He nodded. "It's the only thing I'm buying." Her heart thudded once, hard. "Fine," she said. "I'll take the job. But I'm not your soldier, and I'm not your puppet. If I see something wrong, I'm going to say it. Whether you like it or not." For the first time, his smile reached his eyes. "That," Luca Valenti said, "is exactly what I was counting on." 3 weeks later, Maya could walk through the Valenti Crown Hotel and almost forget she'd ever balanced plates for tips. Almost. Crystal chandeliers dripped light over marble floors, veined like pale smoke. Slot machines chimed in hypnotic patterns. VIP guests drifted past in designer clothes and tired eyes. And weaving quietly through it all now was Maya, with a slim tablet in one hand and a small red first aid icon stitched above her heart. "AED station is blocked by promo posters," she told a floor supervisor, pointing. "If someone drops here, you lose 30 seconds moving cardboard. Clear it." The man hurried to obey. She still wasn't used to that people in suits listening when she spoke. Some did it because Luca had sent a memo, some because she'd already kept a drunk high roller breathing in the poker room on her second day. Rumor traveled faster than the chips. At least once a week, she found Luca watching from a distance, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable, as she ran drills with staff or rewrote emergency protocols. He kept his word. He didn't interfere, but his presence hummed in her peripheral vision, like the low burn of heat from a fireplace you weren't sure was really off. One afternoon, she sat in a glass-walled office 2 floors above the main casino, scrolling through digital incident reports from all his properties. Faint sunlight leaked through storm clouds outside, turning the strip into a muted tangle of color. Her eyes began to pick up a pattern. Too neat, too clean. According to the reports, almost no one in Valenti hotels ever got seriously hurt. Minor slips, 1 sprained ankle, a few fainting spells. Nothing involving ambulances, nothing requiring stitches. Nothing that matched the reality she'd seen in ER rotations. Vegas was a machine built to spin people until they broke. This paperwork said no one ever cracked. Lies, she murmured. She tapped one entry, a bartender at the Mirage Palms, twisted his wrist, iced it, returned to work. She zoomed in on the attached photo. His wrist was swollen twice its size, skin mottled purple. No splint, no referral. Another report. A dancer at a nightclub felt dizzy, went home to rest. The attached security still frame showed a woman on the floor, eyes unfocused, vomit at the corner of her mouth. Dizzy didn't cover that. Someone was rewriting reality. "See something you like?" A male voice drawled from the doorway. She looked up. A man in his early 50s leaned against the frame, charcoal suit, silver hair slicked neatly back. His tie was perfect. His smile wasn't. "You must be the new Florence Nightingale," he said. "I'm Dario Costa, Chief Operations." She recognized the name from org charts. The man who made the trains run on time. The one Luca had known since, before the towers went up, according to Thomas. "It's just Maya," she said. "And these reports are fake." His eyebrows lifted, amused. "You've been here, 20 days? And you've already decided you know my business better than I do?" "I know a dislocated wrist when I see one," she replied. "And that woman needs a CT scan, not a nap." Dario stepped into the office, the faint spice of his cologne cutting through the recycled air. "We handle things in-house when we can," he said smoothly. "Doctors on retainer, quiet settlements, less fuss for everyone. No reason to drag the city and the gaming board into every stubbed toe." "Concussions aren't stubbed toes," Maya said. "Neither are fractures. You're exposing the company to lawsuits, and people to real danger." "People get hurt everywhere," he said, shrugging. "You think the Aurora never massaged a report? Grow up. This is Vegas. You start calling ambulances for every drunk who falls in heels, you'll have a parade of lawyers behind them." "I don't care what the Aurora did," she shot back. "I don't work for them anymore." "No," Dario said softly. "You work for Luca, and Luca understands that sometimes we keep things off paper. That's how his father did it. That's how we've stayed out of the news for 20 years. Her skin went cold. "Does Luca know employees aren't getting actual treatment?" "They're getting enough," Dario said. "And if they don't like it, they're free to find another job. Nobody's chained here. His gaze drifted to her tablet. I'll save you some time. You're not changing those reports. My job is to keep people safe, Maya said, not just to rearrange words so you sleep better. His smile vanished. The air between them sharpened. Your job, he said, voice dropping, is whatever Luca decides it is. And until he tells me otherwise, we keep doing things the way that's worked since before you were born, sweetheart. She stiffened at the endearment, quiet and cutting. Don't call me that. Noted. Dario turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, he added without looking back. You're here because you made a scene in a restaurant that should have stayed quiet. Don't forget who dragged you out of that mess, and who can drop you back in it. When he was gone, Maya let out a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The glass walls around her reflected her own face back, jaw tight, eyes dark, city lights beginning to flicker on below like 1,000 watching eyes. That night, she called an old classmate, Jenna, who now worked paramedic nights with Clark County. Off the record, Maya said. You get many calls from Valenti properties? Jenna snorted. You kidding? They used to be our biggest customers. Fights, falls, overdoses, you name it. Then, about a year ago, the calls dropped off a cliff. Rumor is somebody high up decided ambulances were bad optics. And now? Now if we do get a call from one of his hotels, half the time it's canceled before we arrive. Guest declined service. Happens so much it's a joke. Why? No reason, Maya lied, her hand clenched so tight her knuckles ached. The next morning, she went straight to the top floor. No appointment, no knock. Thomas's eyebrows jumped when she strode past his desk. He's with someone, he warned. He'll be with me, she said. She pushed open the office door. Luca stood by the window. Beside him, in one of the leather chairs, they both looked up. The city glared behind them in bright morning sun, all glass and glare and heat. We're in a meeting, Dario said, annoyance flickering. Then you'll want to hear this, Maya replied, pulse pounding in her ears. She held up her tablet like a weapon. Because someone in this room is lying about people getting hurt in your casinos. And if you don't stop it, Luca, sooner or later, it's going to kill someone. The temperature in the room dropped. Luca's eyes darkened, storm rolling in over steel. Careful, Dario murmured. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, Maya shot back. She looked straight at Luca. Do you? For a heartbeat, no one moved. The city outside threw hard white light into the office, turning the glass wall into a mirror. In that reflection, Maya saw herself between them. Luca in his open white shirt, Dario in perfect charcoal, and her in black slacks and a simple blouse, tablet clutched like a shield. Explain, Luca said at last. The word was quiet, but it cut straight through the room. His gaze never left her face. Maya swallowed, stepped closer, and tapped her screen. Incident reports from all your properties. For the last year, they've been scrubbed. Broken bones turned into sprains. Possible overdoses turned into guest felt dizzy. Left voluntarily. Paramedic calls placed, then magically canceled. It's a pattern. She slid the tablet across the desk. Luca didn't look at Dario. Not yet. He studied the photos, the timestamps, the canceled ambulance logs, jaw tightening. Dario gave a dismissive laugh. This is what you dragged us into a crisis meeting for? Kids slip on spilled drinks, sweetheart. Guests overdo it. We keep it quiet. Luca, this is nothing. It's not nothing, Maya shot back. You are gambling with people's brains and spines because you're afraid of bad press. That's not operations. That's negligence. Watch your mouth, Dario snapped. You have no idea what it takes to keep a machine this big running. I know exactly what happens when a concussion goes untreated, she said, voice shaking now, but louder. I've watched drunks go home and not wake up. I've seen dancers blow out knees and never work again. And every one of those people is a lawsuit waiting to explode in your lap, Luca. This isn't just moral. It's stupid. Silence pressed in. The hum of the air conditioning sounded too loud. Dario, Luca said finally. Have we changed ambulance policy in the last year? Dario lifted his chin. We've refined it. Too many frivolous calls. We keep things in-house like always. I thought you understood that. Did I approve that refinement? Luca asked. You told me to cut exposure, Dario said. This is how you cut it. Fewer outside eyes. Luca's fingers drummed once on the desk. Then his phone buzzed. Thomas's name flashed. He answered without looking away from them. Yes. On the other end, muffled noise, urgent. All the color drained a shade from his face. Where? He asked, already moving around the desk. Maya's stomach clenched. She heard Thomas's answer faintly. Main casino floor, young woman down, breathing shallow. Security wants to handle it internally. Luca's eyes snapped to Dario. Tell them to hold for in-house, Dario said quickly. We'll send. Shut up, Luca said, and the ice in his tone made the room burn. To the phone, he said. Keep them there. Don't let anyone move her. I'm coming. He hung up, grabbed his jacket, and looked at Maya. You're with me. She was already moving. In the hallway, she nearly sprinted to keep up with his long strides. Elevator doors slid open like a cut in the floor. They stepped in, the car dropping fast, the numbers above the door flashing down. Her pulse matched them. What's on the floor? She asked. 23-year-old, Luca said. Overnight guest. Partying since yesterday. Collapsed at a blackjack table. She saw it. The girl in the nightclub report from 2 weeks ago. Felt dizzy. Went to rest. Same age. Same look in the eyes. Patterns. She could aspirate, choke on vomit, seize, Maya said. She needs airway support at minimum. The doors burst open to a wall of sound. The casino roared, slots chiming, music pounding, voices raised. But over it, she heard the frantic edge of shouting. This way, Luca said, cutting through the crowd. People moved for him without really knowing why, a current parting around a rock. Maya followed in his wake. Security had formed a loose circle near a bank of blackjack tables. In the middle, a young woman lay on the carpet, sequined dress bunched, eyes glassy, breaths ragged and wet. A smear of something dark shone at the corner of her mouth. We're handling this, sir, the head of security said to Luca, nervous. We've got her in a private room. No need to scare the guests with... Move, Maya said, shoving past him. She dropped to her knees, all the noise blazing away into a narrow tunnel. Miss? She said, tapping the girl's cheek. No response. Her lips were tinged blue. Alcohol and chemical sweetness clung to her breath. Roll her on her side, Maya ordered the nearest guard. The man hesitated. Now, Luca barked. They moved. Maya cleared the girl's airway, sweeping a finger inside, then tipped her chin to open it. Call EMS, she said. Tell them, suspected overdose, depressed respirations, possible aspiration. I need a Narcan kit and an AED here yesterday. We don't call. The guard started. Luca's voice could have cracked glass. You do now. Phones appeared. Someone ran. Maya counted respirations under her breath, watching the girl's chest. Too slow, too shallow. Her own heart raced faster to make up the difference. You stay with me, she murmured to the stranger. You are not dying on this carpet. Not today. When the Narcan arrived, she popped the cap with shaking hands and delivered the dose. Watching, willing. Seconds stretched like hours. Around them, the casino's glitter burned. Fire in lights, in noise, in the flush of money changing hands. Somewhere behind it, Dario's world of clean reports and canceled calls waited like a shadow. Then the girl coughed, hard, gasping, eyes fluttering. There she is, Maya breathed, relief leaving her weak. You're okay. Stay with me, all right? Paramedics pushed through the circle at last. Uniforms soaked with outside heat. Maya rattled off a fast report. One of them, a woman with tired, kind eyes, shot her a look of recognition and something like respect. Nice work, she said. You just bought her a second chance. As they loaded the girl onto a stretcher, Luca stepped back, letting the crowd see the ambulance crew. The flashing red and white bleeding through the glass doors like a wound. Maya stood, knees aching, hands stained with someone else's mascara and fear. She met Luca's gaze across the chaos. This, she said, breathless, is what your reports are hiding. His expression was no longer unreadable. Fury burned there now, banked but hot, not at her, but at something much older. Not anymore, he said. They rode the elevator up in silence, the noise of the casino fading beneath them. Outside his office, Dario waited, arms crossed, face tight. "You just put an overdose on the front page," he snapped. "Do you have any idea?" "Yes," Luca said. "I do." He stepped close to the man who'd run his operations for 20 years. "You changed policy without my explicit consent," Luca said, voice low. "You hid injuries. You gambled with lives and my name." "I protected this family," Dario argued. "The way your father would have wanted." "You're getting soft, Luca. Letting some girl with a conscience and a pretty face." He didn't finish. The word girl hung in the air like a spark over dry brush. "Thomas," Luca said calmly. "Effective immediately, Dario Costa is suspended from all operational duties. His access is revoked. Have legal draw-up separation papers and a full audit of his tenure." He held Dario's gaze. "And if I find one more report like the ones on that tablet, we won't be having HR conversations. We'll be having legal ones." Dario stared at him, stunned. "You're choosing her word over mine." "I'm choosing the truth over convenience," Luca said. "And if that truth comes from her, yes, I'll take it every time." Their eyes locked, two old wolves, realizing the pack had changed. Then Dario laughed once, short and bitter. "You just made a lot of enemies very happy," he said. "They'll eat you alive." "Not if I clean my own house first," Luca replied. Dario's gaze flicked to Maya, full of promised trouble. Then he turned and walked out, shoulders suddenly smaller. In the quiet that followed, Luca exhaled, long and slow, as if he'd been holding his breath for years. Maya leaned against the glass wall, legs finally shaking. The city sprawled behind her, all glare and glass and neon. But in here, everything felt strangely still. "You just fired your right hand," she said softly. "Because I yelled at you in your own casino." He looked at her, something raw in his eyes now. "No," he said. "I fired him because you reminded me what my hands are supposed to be for." She frowned. "Which is?" He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the faint gold flecks in his gray irises, the fatigue at the edges. "Protecting what's mine," he said. "Not just the buildings and the money." His voice dropped. "The people." Heat flickered in the empty fireplace behind him, unlit but waiting. Outside, sunlight broke through the last of the clouds, spilling across the glass like a promise. For the first time since she'd met him, Maya believed he meant it. 2 weeks later, the casino floor felt different. It still glittered. The chandeliers still rained light over felt tables and polished brass. But now, bright red AED boxes glowed on every wall. Small white crosses marked newly stocked trauma kits. And near every pit, a discreet sign read, "In case of emergency, call 911. Our staff is trained to assist until help arrives." People barely noticed, but Maya did. She watched from the balcony level as a security guard helped an older man to a chair, checked his pulse, then reached straight for the phone instead of glancing nervously at the cameras. No one stopped him. No one whispered about optics. This is how it's supposed to be, she thought. The overdose girl had survived. Jenna had texted her from the ER that night. "Your call saved her brain, M. She'll have a hell of a headache. But she's alive." Maya had stared at the message until the words blurred, then quietly cried in the staff restroom where no one could see. She spotted Luca below now, standing near the roulette wheel with a cluster of managers. He'd called all of them in for a meeting 3 days after Dario's suspension. She'd stood on the stage beside him while he laid out the new policies in a voice that brooked no argument. "We do not hide injuries," he'd said. "We do not cancel ambulances. We do not trade lives for good press. The house can live with losses. People cannot." Some of the old guard had shifted, uncomfortable. A few had looked at Maya with thinly veiled resentment. Luca had noticed. "If you have a problem with that," he'd added, "there's the door. This is the last time I want to hear that. Internal handling comes before a human being." Half the room glanced at her then. Like she was the reason their world was changing. Maybe she was. Tonight. He looked up from the floor, as if he could feel her eyes on him. Their gazes met through the glass banister. The distance between them shrank for a second. He said something to the managers, then stepped away and headed for the private elevator. A minute later, the doors behind her opened. "You're watching them," he said, moving to stand beside her at the railing. Old habit, she said. Count exits, watch the crowd. Make sure nobody passes out alone. Good habit, he replied quietly. Below, 2 cocktail servers laughed together near a slot machine, one tugging the other's tray straighter like an older sister. The old version of the casino hummed under the surface, but something gentler threaded through it now. You did this, he said. She shook her head. You signed the memos. I just yelled a lot. He glanced sideways at her. You think I would have changed anything if all I had were numbers on a chart? You fired, Dario, she said. That wasn't me. His jaw flexed. He rested his forearms on the cool metal rail, looking down at his empire. Dario and my father built this place, he said. On their rules, their silences, their shortcuts. I followed that script for a long time. It was easier not to look too hard. Until your daughter almost got thrown out of a restaurant, Maya murmured. Until someone I didn't own, he corrected, stepped in front of her and refused to move. They stood in quiet for a moment, side by side. The casino murmured below them like a faraway ocean. Can I ask you something? He said. You usually do, she replied. What made you become that person? He asked. The one who steps in. A lot of people would have kept their heads down. She swallowed, eyes fixed on the slowly rotating roulette wheel below. I was 8, she said. My mom collapsed in our apartment. Stroke. I called 911. We went to County General. She was in a hallway for 6 hours. No bed, no monitor, nurses sprinting past. Nobody looked at me. Her hand tightened on the rail. I kept telling them she couldn't talk right, that her face looked wrong. They said, Sweetie, we know. We're doing our best. 2 hours later, she crashed. If someone had listened sooner, her voice trailed off. When you're a kid in a fluorescent hallway, and no one stops to see you, she whispered, you learn real fast what happens when nobody steps in. Luca turned fully toward her now. His face was softer than she'd ever seen it. I'm sorry, he said. It wasn't a courtesy phrase. It sounded like something he tasted, examined, and offered carefully. It was a long time ago, she said. Not to you, he answered. Not really. She let out a shaky breath and forced a small smile. So now I overcorrect. I jump into things that aren't my business. Get myself fired from fancy sky restaurants. And hired into stranger places, he said. She huffed a quiet laugh. Into your glass tower. He followed her gaze out toward the strip. Glass shows cracks, he said. That's its problem. And its virtue. Kind of like people, she said. He didn't answer. Not with words. Maya? The small voice came from behind them. They both turned. Sophia stood there with Thomas, hair in a neat braid, her notebook clutched to her chest. She wore a pale yellow dress that made her look less like the solemn child from the restaurant, and more like a kid who might still believe in birthday wishes. Hey, Peanut, Maya said, her tone instinctively softening. What are you doing up here? Thought you had homework. I finished, Sophia said. She walked over, standing between them at the railing. Her hand slipped into Maya's without asking, like it had done that a dozen times. It had. Dad said we could show you something, she added. Luca nodded toward the elevator. If you're not busy rewriting the kingdom, he said, I'd like to borrow you for an hour. Depends, Maya said. Is there food involved? Possibly pizza, he admitted. Sophia has specific tastes. Then I'm in. Thomas drove them in comfortable silence through the glowing arteries of the city, away from the strip, into a quieter neighborhood where palm trees reached into the darkening sky like ink strokes. Luca's house wasn't a mansion in the classic sense. It was modern lines and warm stone, glass and wood, light spilling from big windows instead of high gates. Inside, it smelled like basil and something baking. Sophia tugged her toward the back. Come on, we're almost done. In the backyard, under strings of soft white lights, a low table had been set with art supplies and half-finished cardboard cutouts. Maya blinked. What is all this? Our project, Sophia said proudly, for Sunday nights. On the patio, an outdoor oven radiated faint warmth, embers glowing. Fire, contained, safe. Beside it, Big serving bowls waited, empty. "We're starting community dinners," Luca said. "Free meals, no questions, staff, neighbors, anyone who needs a place to sit." Sophia held up a painted sign, still drying. The letters wobbled, but they were clear. "You matter here." Maya's throat closed. "Whose idea was this?" she asked. "Mine," Sophia said. "But Papa said we could do it because of you." Maya looked at him. "She wanted to know," Luca said quietly, "how we could make sure no one ever feels like she did. Alone at a table. Afraid to be thrown out. So we decided to build a place where that can't happen," Sophia said. "Where, even if you come in by yourself, you don't have to stay alone." Maya sank into one of the chairs, overwhelmed. "You two realize," she said slowly, "this is a lot more dangerous than any casino policy." "Feeding people?" Luca asked, amused. "Letting them belong," she corrected. He watched her, something warm and steady in his eyes. "Some risks," he said, "are finally worth taking." Sophia wedged herself between them on the bench, resting her head against Maya's arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. Above them, the desert sky had cleared. Stars pricked through, faint but stubborn, above the low glow of the city. For the first time in a long time, Maya didn't feel like she was standing alone in a storm. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Weeks unfolded like morning light through glass, slow and deliberate, slipping into every room of the Valenti house. Maya began to understand that calm could be as loud as chaos if you weren't used to it. After years of double shifts and sirens, the quiet scratched at her at first until she discovered what patience sounded like. Sophia's laughter during algebra help, the purr of espresso on the kitchen counter, Luca's voice reading contracts at the dining table while sunlight pooled across the wood. The community dinners became real, not just an idea painted in uneven letters. Every Sunday, she and Sophia stirred sauce under the patio lights, the smell of garlic and basil carrying over the fence. Security guards off-duty passed plates beside hotel maids. Guests without rooms found seats beside chefs in white coats. For 2 hours, the lines between privilege and need blurred into something human. It wasn't charity, it was family, temporary and stubbornly alive. Luca watched it each week, jacket off, sleeves rolled. When an elderly man dropped a plate, Luca bent to help him without hesitation. No cameras, no witnesses. Just a man learning how to live without distance. Sophia noticed. One night she whispered to Maya, "He smiles different now." She was right. The smile no longer looked practiced. It looked surprised, like it still amazed him that Grace hadn't run out. Inside the company, things changed too. A memo with her name on it, Director of Health Policy, Valenti Holdings, appeared on Monday mornings now. She rewrote the emergency protocols, set up scholarships for EMT training, and answered to no one but Luca himself. Occasionally, she still caught whispers in hallways. The waitress who became his conscience, the nurse who tamed the boss. She ignored them. The work spoke louder. Sometimes, late at night, she'd step out onto the balcony of her apartment, the same one that leaked in last year's storms, and think about everything that had bent her toward this moment. One impulsive act of compassion. A frightened child. A man whose empire looked invincible until it wasn't. All of it converging like parallel roads. Finally meeting at one small intersection called courage. She'd learned that heroism didn't thunder in it, whispered, asking one simple question. "Will you stand up, even if your knees shake?" Down the strip, the Aurora Sky Lounge still shimmered in chrome and glass. She hadn't been back since, but sometimes she imagined walking through those doors again, not as a server afraid of dropping plates, but as herself whole, steady, unashamed. Maybe one day she would, just to prove that second chances could circle all the way around. That night, after the last dish from the community dinner was washed, Luca locked the sliding door, found her watching the embers fade. "Everything all right?" he asked. She nodded, just thinking about how far a single no can travel. He smiled, tracing ash from his thumb. "You mean the one you gave Marcus?" "I mean the one I gave Fear." He leaned in until their shoulders touched, quiet but certain. In the reflection on the glass, 3 silhouetted figures merged into one line of light, proof that storms, when faced head-on, sometimes clear the sky instead of breaking it. The night the first You Matter Here dinner reached its 100th guest, the desert breeze carried laughter clear to the front gate. Neon from the strip pulsed faintly on the horizon, a heartbeat reminding them the city never really slept. Maya stepped out to the driveway to breathe and found the sky. Wider than she remembered, the air sharp with sage after an afternoon's rain. She heard Luca's footsteps before she saw him. He always announced himself by sound, not words, the soft weight of leather shoes, the pause before speaking, as if measuring the moment. "You disappeared," he said, voice turning gentle in the quiet. "Needed a minute," she replied. She gestured to the glow from the backyard where Sophia twirled in a circle of kids, her braid coming loose. "She's happy." "She is," he said. "She's starting to hum again when she draws. She used to do that before the accident." They stood together at the edge of his driveway, watching the flicker of lights through the glass walls. It hit her, then the same glass that once represented power now merely contained warmth. She turned to him. "You rebuilt this without firing a bullet," she said. "You chose paper and policy instead of fear." He smiled faintly. "Would you believe it still felt like war?" "I'd believe you learned what winning is supposed to look like." A car hissed by on the distant road. Inside, music started, an old jazz record Sophia adored. For a moment, Maya let the sound wash over her, the low brass and cymbal brushes folding into nighttime like heartbeat and breath combined. "When I first met you," she said, "you terrified me. I remember. But I think," she continued softly, "maybe you were just as scared. You'd forgotten what kindness sounded like if it didn't ask for something." Luca didn't deny it. He looked out toward the skyline instead. "You taught me that protection isn't control," he said. "Protection is seeing someone's strength and letting it lead you. My father never understood that, but Sophia will." She studied his profile, the quiet gravity of a man learning redemption one decision at a time, and felt an odd peace settle inside her. "You know," she said, "most storms only look endless because we keep walking in circles." He glanced at her, brow lifting. "Meaning? Sometimes the way out isn't forward, it's together." He absorbed that the way he did everything slowly, wholly, as though testing the words against bone, and then nodded once. "Together," he echoed. That single word sounding like a vow. Sophia called from the patio, voice bright. "Papa, Maya, come, bring the cake." They laughed, both of them, the kind of unguarded sound that cracks walls no architect could plan for. When they walked back into the light, the party shimmered neighbors, strangers, employees, family, different pieces of the same story. Maya felt Luca's hand brush hers, not a possession, a promise. The choice to stay. Somewhere above them, the last of the storm glow faded from the clouds, leaving only clean stars. "Sometimes courage isn't loud," the narrator murmured, as the camera slowly pulled back. "It's the quiet decision to keep showing up, even after the rain." Thank you for listening to this story. Please like, subscribe, and share for more love stories that you have never heard before.